All right, from Mark to Mark. Makes it easy for me to stay coordinated. Mr. Ritchie, so nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. So, I have to start by admitting I did not know that there was still a World's Fair. I'm sorry, but I am going to mend my ways right now by learning from you about how great is the World's Fair and why should we bring it to Minnesota?
Well, so World's Fairs have been going on for over 150 years, and they happened every couple years, but it's been 3 or 4 decades since there's been one in the United States. So many people in the United States...
Okay, so I have a bit of an excuse for being... Okay.
Yes. And for those of us who are a little older than you, myself included, those World's Fairs that were here were big events in the life of the nation.
Absolutely.
New York World's Fair, Chicago
St. Louis,
World's
I
Fairs,
can
St.
still
Louis,
picture textbook
Chicago,
pictures.
Seattle, Spokane, Vancouver, Montreal, San Antonio, Knoxville. Many of these places, these were very big events in the life of the nation, and especially in terms of really moving forward some sectors of the economy. Introduction of television at the 39 World's Fair, that kind of thing. But every couple years, someplace on the planet now, there are World's Fairs. They come in 2 sizes. A 6-month version and a 3-month version.
Okay. I can guess which one we're better tailored for.
Every 5 years, on the 0 years, the 5 years, that sort of thing, is one of the 6-month version.
All right.
2010, Shanghai, 73 million people.
Wow.
Our own 3M, Minnesota's one of our premier companies, was the first corporation that really came on board and helped make the U.S. pavilion there the #1 pavilion for the entire Expo. Our own 3M has been a critical piece of many of the U.S. pavilions around the country.
Okay.
So that was 2010. 2015 was an Expo in Milan, Italy, about 24 million people.
Wow.
Again, many Minnesota companies were critical. Again, the U.S. pavilion was the #1 pavilion. And in 2020, the next 0 year, it'll be in Dubai. It'll be huge. But in between those 6-month versions, there's a 3-month version in the summer. And Minnesota is in the finals to be the host for the one in 2023. So that'll be the next one after.
And it's down to the final 3?
There's just 3 left in the finals.
Kind of a nail-biter.
Buenos Aires from Argentina. The city of Łódź, Poland, which is a city in the eastern part of Poland. And Minnesota. Rio de Janeiro dropped out. We were in the final 4, and now we're in the final 3.
They just had kind of a big, we'll let them
Yes, and they had some other problems, just financial. But this opportunity has really come around now because people around the country have begun saying, you know, we'd really like to be part of this World's Fair movement. Houston, San Francisco, Philadelphia, other cities. And so the energy that was created nationally, Minnesota said, hey, us. And we now have the leading position.
Wow. Now, how do we know we have the leading position? Have we been told that, or is this like wink, wink?
So in December of this last year, our bid within the United States was the one endorsed and recommended by the U.S. Department of Commerce. They start that.
And I saw that President Obama had...
They recommended to President Obama. President Obama studied it, agreed, and then it was officially filed just in time. So now we're in that final process. We will host our official site visit in Minnesota. There'll be 8 ambassadors and senior leaders from the decision-making body. There's a global organization, the Bureau of International Exposition, or BIE. 168 countries are in this treaty-based international body. So 8 will come to Minnesota March 19th to 24th. Check out our site, check out our people, check out our ideas, check out our theme, because we're focusing on health and medicine, health and wellness. And so they will come, they will go back, they'll write their recommendations, they'll site visit the other 2 finalists, and then in June we'll make our last big presentation to the gathering of all the 168 countries that will take place in Paris, France, which is where this body is based.
Wow.
So we will have our day in the sun,
Hopefully it is sunny.
In March it'll be sunny.
So
and
now
we'll have
what
our day
is
in the sun in June.
What is our site?
The site is between TCF Stadium or Gopher Stadium and Surly, the brew pub, the brewery at the other end.
Yep.
Some of us think about that as just north of the university campus. United Crushers is the name of a very large grain elevator that sits on some of that land. Sometimes people know that landmark. But if you can picture from TCF Stadium due east, there's a lot of open land, some abandoned rail yards, some abandoned grain elevators, and it just has never been developed. And there's exactly the amount of land. We can only have 62 acres in the official site. That's one of the rules. And so there's 61 and a half acres in that area. It's served by 3 light rail stops. It has the advantage of being very near many of the university's resources. In the summer, there's thousands of student housing and apartments available. It's very close by way of the expressway to our state fairgrounds, which has many advantages. We can use the park and ride system. We can use a lot of the infrastructure. And, of course, the university's world-leading position on medicine, on health, on wellness, combined with the 1,000 medical device companies, the nation's #1 hospital, Mayo, all of the organizations that we have who promote fitness, who promote self-help, all of these things we can see concentrated as part of that larger university community. So that site, while being ideal from a size and it's available and all of that, it does also meet the vision of the university going forward. They own almost all the land. They've had the vision and have been building their scientific and research capacity out in that direction. And by bringing the world's focus to that part and that relationship to the university, we have a chance to both lift the brand of the whole state, lift the brand of the university, but also to bring attention to our entire region, because in fact, all of us know you have to get people to come here, but once they come here, sometimes they never want to leave.
That's what happened to my husband. He came for undergrad and hasn't left yet.
There you go.
So we're at a robotics conference. You've talked a little bit about, this is a great showcase for industry and economy and the region and our beautiful environment and landscape. Specific to robotics, what's the opportunity for showcasing how we're a leader in that technology and engineering space? Yes,
well, I think there's this part that comes to mind that's quite visual and graphic, the real expansion of the use of robots in so much of the very, very high specialized surgeries. Our governor is having surgery very soon, prostate cancer. That's a kind of a common one. But the use of robots and robotic type machinery and robotic type surgical equipment is now becoming very dominant. But there's a larger notion, which are also the shared issues. For example, at this conference and at a related conference on cybersecurity, we know that we have to be watching out in the cybersecurity way. So many of us have had surgeries to implant heart defibrillators or pacemakers kind of thing. We have to make sure that we have thought through the safety aspects. It's very closely related to robotics. Much of what we think about in terms of our safety, let's say workplace safety, there are certain jobs and certain environments that are very potentially harmful for humans. One of our most famous, our oldest, and really one of the first robotics companies in the world, Parse Systems based here, they specialize in making the robotic arms and things for places where humans or people cannot go. The Fukushima nuclear plants that had so much damage in Japan, Chernobyl. These were the origins of the company. They were making the arms for the Manhattan Project, the very first development at the end of the Second World War. So when we think about protecting health and safety. We think about the ways that robots can be helpful.
Go ahead and pull it even closer. Sorry, just
when
uncomfortably
we think
close.
about making sure that we have the best tools, whether it's for surgery. But I want to add one other thing. Our theme is wellness and well-being for all. And well-being is a very large terminology that has aspects of people feeling engaged, people feeling part of the world, people feeling like their life is fulfilling. And some of the manufacturers in Minnesota have been specializing in how can robots be used so that people with certain kind of disabilities have the path, the possibility to have a job in an industry, let's say a manufacturing job, because the robot can allow us to do certain things depending on our abilities. Maybe it can allow us to produce something because it's assisting us. And so I've been very impressed at this robotics conference as I've gone around, and I believe I've been at every year. I think this is our sixth. And so, but I've been impressed that many of the uses that are being innovated here, that are being shown, have to do with improving the well-being of people. Yeah. And I know that the high end of certain kind of surgeries or certain kind of transplant, there's a very high end, but I also can see so many ways that people are thinking about how a robotic seal can be of comfort. Sure. How a certain kind of robotic interaction can calm and give someone who's on the autism spectrum a different kind of care in a different kind of way. I just feel like when we think of wellness and well-being for all as our broad theme, that robotics and robotic inventors, creators, entrepreneurs will be making such a huge contribution. We heard a little bit about it today in the presentations. Yeah. I think that Minnesota's, I used to say 150 years of caring for each other. Our state's a little bit over 150 years. We've been caring for each other, and robotics will give us new tools, and we're using those new tools to help care for each other.
I love it. So to wrap up, how can we stuff the ballot box? I probably shouldn't say that on camera, but so March 19th is the site visit. Should we all show up and look very Minnesota nice and just happen to be in the area, or?
I'm very glad that you asked this. As we begin to move to that vote, Minnesotans are very unusual people. We travel the planet. We host students in our homes from other countries. We sometimes work overseas. Our companies have businesses. We have different kind of relationships with people all over the planet. And sometimes those are very visible. Our Norwegian American Chamber, our German, sometimes they're more invisible. I was at Land of Lakes, one of our nation's largest cooperatives, one of our finest companies, and they said, well, we have a huge presence in East Africa. Every week we're working with the Prime Minister or Trade Minister in 5 countries. Or health partners. Sure. Who knew they had a subsidiary in Uganda in Africa? So people can be thinking about who in their life, where in their life, do they have some connection to another country or to a person in a position in another country? Maybe just a student who's here that they've been part of their life, and beginning to think about how to express in writing or in a video or in a phone call, email, that Minnesota is bidding to host this World's Fair. We're thinking about wellness and well-being for all, healthy people, healthy planet, and being in a position to ask for their support as we make this run in this final 3. That vote will come in November, so between now and November, that kind of thing can really help build the understanding that Minnesota is quite a special place. We know it, but we want the whole world to know it.
Well, you don't have to ask me twice to brag about Minnesota. So thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to talk to you, and I can't wait to see the World's Fair in my own backyard.
Fabulous.
Thank you.